Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome. It is Tuesday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, and not a green among us. Very nice.
Not as green.
Behind Anne's shirt.
It is. Andy's drinking green water. Anne's got actual plants.
I've got plants.
That
Very
counts.
green.
That
Green plants.
counts.
Only today. Only for St. Patrick's Day.
I speak, so I got nothing. I mean, it's green, but it's
There's a curtain on the other side of that. That's green, but it is episode 682 today. My name is Beth Lyons.
Right.
I am hosting. With me in the studio today is Brian Masseri. Masseri. Amade. Amodi. Amodi. Masseri. Damn. I have that in my head.
Do you say Amodi? Are you one of those people, Beth?
He
says Amodi.
No. Brian says it because that's how his name is pronounced, right? You do the emphasis on the second syllable, so I have to hear Brian in my head say.
But also, to be fair, Anne, I mispronounce almost everybody's name, and Andy and Beth correct me all the time. So there's really, I would say it's Amodi or Amode, but it's not that.
We never say there's last names, right? So it's
I have Elon Musk, or I have Elon Musk problems. It's a whole.
You have Elon Musk and like a really good guy, I think, mixed up. No. You have Epstein and Musk.
No, not Epstein. Ethan Malik and Elon Musk.
Yes, Ethan Malik and Elon Musk.
And now it's us, right? Because we both go Ethan Malik while we're doing it. Hey, also in the studio is Ann Murphy and Andy Halliday. Excellent. So happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. What has been happening in AI in your worlds?
I mean, the other thing I was going to bring up really quick, because I know there's other stuff about Jensen Huang, and there's been some cool NVIDIA stuff that kind of jumps off of what Andy had yesterday. We should definitely talk about that too. But I'll tell you one of the things that just keeps coming back to mind. I'm going to actually bring it up on screen really quick, is Perplexity's computer. Now, computer, not personal computer, which Andy, I know you've signed up to get early access to. I don't believe that's happened just yet. But this is just computer on inside Perplexity. And I mean, I'm kind of in it right now. And I keep getting emails because, I'm an annual subscriber user of Perplexity, which I'm happy to be, but it keeps saying like, hey, Brian, don't you want to go back in there and build something with a computer? And I go, yep, that's right. I do. I want to go build something with a computer. The thing is, it's been a week now and I can't come up with like one thing that I think would be valuable to me that I would want to do in computer. And then this is the news part of it that I want to do is like, it's not news like in last 24 hours, but what I have up on screen are the suggestions by Perplexity on what I might be able to do with computer. And I really have to tell you, I'm just super underwhelmed. I don't know who needs to build an S&P 500 chart, or for that matter, an NVIDIA stock timeline or a Tesla stock timeline. Those are all things I can instantly find online. I can find 1,000 different rent to buy calculators. Now, if it's my specific situation or... Sorry, Andy, I wasn't sure if you were speaking or not. You're unmuted.
Yeah, well, I wasn't saying anything.
Okay. But I don't know. I mean, index. I mean, maybe some presidential election stuff. I could see some things that maybe my daughter would do. In terms of research papers, like this one over here. One of these is like a research paper. I forget which one. Somebody is, one of their examples is, hey, let's build Windows 3.1. Look, I don't have more to add to this. I just maybe I'm missing it, but I can't figure out if that's what you're giving me, Perplexity, in this era, with what we know is possible with the Claude codes of the world. I feel like, wow, you should have come with something better. But then again, maybe I'm not this typical Perplexity user. I just don't know who needs to rebuild stock tickers for something that's easily usable and findable on the web. Like, why?
Yep.
So I don't know. Am I missing something? Anne, am I missing something there?
So this has been an ongoing experience for me when I go in and I'm like, cool, they're going to show me use cases so I can just like fast forward to the stuff that's going to have an impact. And I look in there and I'm like, am I doing this wrong? Because those things all seem really easy. Like they already exist out in the world, and now we're trying to. I hate to use a metaphor like this, but like we're bringing a gun to a knife fight, people. Why are we doing this? And I've had that in Manus, in GenSpark, in computer, and the weakness of their use cases they gave me prevented me from buying or subscribing to computer because I was like not inspired. I need something to aspire to because I'm getting all my needs met elsewhere. But I do love Perplexity, so I was very tempted. I'll say that just out of faith because I love it. Love it.
Okay, so I have a more positive experience of using computer, Perplexity
Cool.
Computer. So, one of the things that I've worked on historically over the past several years is this idea of generating a whole collection of series memories, if you will, or documents that capture certain progressions that go through your life. And one of them that occurred to me because I came across some pictures on an old hard drive of one of the early skis that I skied on, and I was kind of amazed at what a rickety old pair they looked like. But these were professional skis at the time, and so I said, I want to get a photograph of each of the skis that I can recall having. And there's a lot of them over the course of my lifetime. And there's a progression in the technology that I want to capture. And so I asked computer to do that for me. And so it entered into a dialogue with me, said, okay, we'll find the photos if we can. I'll look for those for you. And then we'll, as we get each in the succession of skis, I'll store that photo for you on your drive and then we'll move on to the next one. And so I got drawn in last night to this interactive process with Perplexity Computer. And I've gotten all the way up to, I don't know, 1980 roughly. Okay. And it was really, really satisfying. I had a collaborative agent that was doing all the background work to collect those images and present them and doing deep research. It didn't just get the images. That wasn't the limit of it. Without my asking it to, it gave me a full history of that particular model and what its import was, who won, events on that particular ski and so on. I was very happy with what computer was doing with me.
I like that idea, that personal sort of research plan to it, because it's something that you obviously are happy to kind of work through, and you're not doing the leg work to do the research, which is a nice part of it. It makes me think for me, like I want it to go research. Maybe I'll go have it research Florida college universities against inflation, cost versus inflation, and whether the universities have upgraded their, class availabilities to match or pace with the increased costs over time or something. Like that's something like I don't want to do on my own, and I would want some other agent-ish to go out there and go pull that information. So I think that maybe you have the right idea. See, that's a great idea. And like I would have been loved to see something that was a little bit more like that instead of stock tickers. I just think that's sort of my point is like you're underselling yourself, Perplexity, because what you just said, Andy, I think sounds really awesome. It's not everybody's use case, but it would make me think of other use cases. But like, yeah, that's cool. If you can do that, I can do this. Why are you showing me you can rebuild the Tesla stock ticker? I don't get it. By the way, I know I'm not knocking Perplexity. I'll tell you one of the cool things it did for me the other day that I didn't need to happen, but it's in that sort of like random phase. My wife and I are standing on Jacksonville Beach on the other side of the state, and we can see a pretty far distance out. We're fairly sure it's a cruise ship because it was white and it just didn't look like a, tanker or something, it looked like a cruise ship, but it was out there. And so I go to Perplexity while I'm standing on the beach and I'm like, what cruise ship am I looking at if I'm standing on Jacksonville Beach? And with no problem, it was able to sort of triangulate all the data to tell me it's got to be the Norwegian Dream. It was a Norwegian something, and it's like, it's got to be because that's the only ship based on port departure from that area today that would be in that position if you're looking due east from Jacksonville Beach. And I was like, that's pretty cool. It's like, is it white with a blue top? And Amanda's like, I think it does have a blue smokestack on it. It's like, it's the Norwegian Dream. It's going to San Jose or something like that. Like, it was like, I was like, I mean, did I need to know that? No. Was it pretty cool that it did it in like 3 seconds? Yeah, that was pretty cool. So
I have 2 follow-ons to that. One is that one of my favorite things to do is that exact use case, but when I'm out hiking and it does make any sense to me. How could it possibly know where I am? But, there'll be I'll leave something in there. But anyway, the other piece is about the kind of layering on of different data points from here and here and here, and some of them messy, like Andy's skis. That is the use case that I use AI for most often. Probably 2 or 3 hours a day is me pulling data points together from a million different places. And so far, like I can give minute differences between, this experience, that experience, this tool, that tool, that tool. But they're still like all so freaking good that even though I'm at the peak, the top like 0.05 of my excellence in my work in my field, I still don't see that much of a difference, you all.
Yeah.
It's all great. So
Absolutely.
I want to share that.
Absolutely. And not only that, but there are studies that show that the answers start to converge as well, right? So that not only are they at similar levels, the answers start to be a little similar across the board, although when it has a memory of you or you've given, context instructions and a style guide, then that's more towards you. But in general, we're sort of seeing both of those things.
I didn't know that, Beth. That's a fun fact.
I'm full of fun facts.
So fun. So like fun.
Andy, did you bring a story you want to talk about today?
Well, I want to talk about NemoClaw, which is, the NVIDIA implementation of OpenClaw. And by the way, at GTC, the big technology conference where Jensen did his 2-hour, 11-minute keynote speech yesterday, I've got it teed up on YouTube to look at it if I can find the time today, because he's definitely, at the heart of what's going on out there. But remember that OpenClaw was written as a piece of software by a single individual, an Austrian developer, who was then immediately hired by OpenAI, to assist in the implementation of this thing. Jensen called OpenClaw the single most important piece of software ever written, ever. Which is pretty big, right? Like not even DOS, he's dismissing that. Okay, so anyway, they've offered up a new sort of secure enterprise version of OpenClaw called NemoClaw, and it's basically running on OpenClaw, but it provides all of the necessary security infrastructure, right, for an enterprise to implement multi-agents and make those claw-type agents accessible to everyone. So this gives rise to another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is I'm still fuzzy in the distinction between a persistent, long-running agentic system like Manus or GenSpark or Perplexity Computer and OpenClaw. Like, what really distinguishes among those different variants? I maybe one of you can help me by describing what you see as that key distinction between what an OpenClaw implementation is and what an agent working through the browser is, that you've delegated access to your local machine. Like, so you can do all the same things, it seems to me, but one has some distinct and apparently very seminal change in the way that the software architecture is designed. And I don't yet kind of grok that. I can't get that.
So I think it's the agentic feature. And I think the sequence that we saw on the show was the Ralph loop agentic thing that you could get Ralph. You could install something that was going to be a
Right, but
recursive check.
the looping makes it, keep going, like, until it gets to a final or evaluable
And you
result.
could set the condition that the loop ends, because now that's what's happening. The next expansion of that is what we're calling claws, just because that's hilarious that they're all claws. They're just all agents, and they're autonomous agents that have a goal. And the goal isn't quite the same as aligned to a fixed state, as far as I know. Most people use these for sort of ongoing research or keeping tabs on something. Sometimes they're developing software, in which case, yes, there is still a goal that the software will do, but then there are individual features that you're building or whatever that is. I do think it's the autonomous recursive thing that is what people are talking about. And I think that's definitely what Jensen is referring to, because this is the piece that moves AI out of something that needs to be monitored and initiated. And just to be clear, you still have to monitor and initiate it. Claw is not that yet, but it is the precursor for something like that, I believe.
I think there might be another distinction, which is the claws have access to the command line interface,
Yes.
right? And the other kinds of agents, whether GenSpark or Manus, don't actually get into the sort of the system that you're running and drive it. That I think is a difference. And OpenClaw has created a system that people feel safe enough with, that they can implement something that actually takes over command line interface in their own computer. And that opens up a pretty broad range of things, which you've experienced by using Claude Code, either in the command line interface, which is terminal, or OpenShell, or whatever, whatever's PowerShell, I guess it's called in PC world. And the difference between that and then using the desktop app and using CoWork as a way of accessing the same functionality, but not really through the CLI, or using Claude Code directly in the terminal.
And I would say a couple things to that. I think people feel safer using OpenClaw than they should, right? I mean, there's like, if you're like, cool, let's
Now, there are horror stories that have come out, but in the hands of people who are very sophisticated,
yes,
high level executives in the world of AI, getting scratched by the claw.
right. And the key to this,
Dad jokes. Grandpa jokes.
it's a lobster claw. But so the key in this context, I think, is that we're seeing this in vibe coded things as well. We're in a place where it isn't so much that OpenClaw is going to delete your files on your computer. It's just going to code or do something that exposes your API key, right? Mm-hmm. Like on a Discord server somewhere that you did not engage with, but you did give it access to the API key because it was going to do something with it that you wanted. Like, that's the level of comfort that I think people have, that maybe you shouldn't feel quite that comfortable. But yes, these are the things that you could end up giving your OpenClaw or something a goal of, write me a white paper with this kind of information, and then go and do it and bring it back to me fully formed, right? Like that kind of thing.
I must chime in with a PSA right now. Yesterday, while we were tunneling into Claude Code, at our executive headquarters, which is also known as our kitchen. While sitting right next to my business partner, aka my husband, deleted, like for real, somehow a whole bunch of my gems. I downloaded stuff from Google Drive down to my hard drive, and then I worried about how much space I had taken up, so I just started deleting things, as one does. And Kate called and said, "Whatever you guys are doing, I'm watching your files disappear right now. Your gems are gone." And I'm like, "Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear," because a whole bunch of them are linked all over God's green earth. Plus, Brian Masseri, I used your gem builder to build them, so they are things of beauty. They are perfect. Except for they would be gone now, except for Kate Rivera knows me so well, is she had gone in before and pulled out all of my instructions from all of my gems that are out there.
Yeah.
And that might be something you could get computer to do.
That might be something that computer would scoop up and save me from myself, because I do clearly I need another layer. So don't be cavalier, period, is the point.
Let's be clear that personal computer is what's coming that we haven't seen yet, that actually has access to the command line interface. It can do all this stuff. So,
and that's you're
complexity computer, you've got to kind of stay outside of your own machine to some degree, but you can also connect it to, like Google Drive and all that sort of thing.
So I built a script to download our StreamYard files because if we have more than 50 gigabytes of StreamYard files, we are not broadcasting or recording, apparently, or maybe we're broadcasting but not recording. So I'm trying to do that, but I have the beta tester in me that is like, if it can hit the download, it can hit delete, Beth, right? Like, there's something in me that is not quite willing to do it. I may still do it and watch it, but
Yeah.
Am I really saving time if I'm now watching the computer download the file as opposed to delete the file?
I mean, anybody that watches this inside of StreamYard from our end knows that comments and end stream are perilously close. It's like, I can't tell you how many times I've almost, and that was StreamYard's fix, because it used to be at the bottom of the screen where it was next to Leave Studio, and you could leave Studio or end the end stream, and they fixed that. But now it's literally in the upper right corner. It's a very big button, and it's, right next to comments. So if we happen to be flipping around, I know I've almost done it several times, and so
yeah, the fact that it's the same color button as end stream and leave are the same color button. So if you're just leaving a stream because you got to go somewhere, it's like don't click it.
Yeah,
don't click that top.
Which makes me click it.
Hey, Carl,
good to see you. Yeah. Hi, Carl.
I have one other distinction I want to make, which is,
please do.
We talked about this yesterday, which is in the wake of Stanford announcing their Open Jarvis framework for doing OpenClaw-like things, but like with an open standard, and as is OpenClaw, it's open. The distinction in my mind is that this architecture, the new Claw architecture, is designed to be local first. And it's anticipating a time that we're rapidly converging on, which is availability of very small but very capable reasoning models, small enough to fit on your machine, and using that in priority to going out to the cloud and incurring the privacy issues, the data security issues, and or the training issues that we all, maybe some of us, worry about, and then also incurring the token cost. That's the key difference here. Claw is making it possible, using open source models on your local machine, to offload a lot of the burden of the expense of token purchases on the cloud systems by prioritizing use of a local model for all those things that the Claw can identify can be done locally and don't have to rely on the powerful reasoning that's available on the cloud.
I think that's true. And let's get to a couple other news stories, but I think we want to come back and talk a little bit more about agentic situations because Carl raised that yesterday as well. Does anybody else have a news story not agent related?
Yeah. But I mean, I know I kind of kicked things off, but yeah, I did want to talk about ElevenLabs only to say they sort of came out with their new creative platform.
Mm.
ElevenLabs we've known historically as being just a voice company. They've sort of were leading the way for a while, but if you look at their website, I won't bother bringing it up, but if you just go to ElevenLabs and their newest release here, voiceovers, localization, video generation, what else? Music, sound effects, AI voices, image generation. I think I hit all of them. So they're clearly trying to strategically move themselves towards a, all-in-one platform, a Canva, if you will. I mean, they're obviously moving towards that. Interesting on this one, I didn't see, because I don't think it would be the case. I don't think these are all like native ElevenLabs models. Like we haven't heard anything about ElevenLabs building their own video model, but also at the same time, at least on their splash screen here, I don't see who they are partnering with. Like what's behind their voice? Like who am I using? If I'm in ElevenLabs doing video, who am I using? Same thing with image generation. Who am I using? What models are behind this? Just because that's not historically where ElevenLabs has focused. Now, voice, sound them, but if it's image or video, that's just not where they've been. So I'm assuming they're working with some of the premier models, but they also, to my knowledge of looking at this, unless it's just buried somewhere, and I'm just sort of scrolling down here. It might be in the FAQs. I didn't see what they're using. So anyway, interesting. Good for ElevenLabs. They're phenomenal when it comes to the voice side of things. But I think even they're seeing, the writing on the wall that that's probably not enough to sustain the long-term vision of the company. And so they probably do need to move into some of these other areas. Also, though, that doesn't necessarily make them very different when you have companies like Canva, who hasn't pushed as far as this, but they could very quickly. They wanted to. And they already have a really well-established, marketing base and people who already create, and creatives are there. So harder to meet, I think, to get creatives to come over to ElevenLabs if that's not how you think of ElevenLabs. But I mean, companies that started in different smaller areas and expanded and done very well. So who's to say in a year's time, we're not all talking about ElevenLabs being this amazing creative platform that everybody loves. It could happen, just, it's an interesting move. That's all. So that was it. I just wanted to make sure I brought that up because I thought I saw in the last news.
Yeah.
Or in the last day rather.
Yep. So I have a story that I did not see anywhere else. It came in the AI Valley newsletter yesterday afternoon, and it talked about, I believe it's 2 Phantom MK1 robots that have been deployed in Ukraine as military defense robots. So, and I think part of what is interesting about this story is not a concept or a demo, right? They're black steel, they're 5'9", they're humanoid combat robots. And Ukraine has been a testing ground for us. The drone warfare got tested and much elevated by what was happening in Ukraine. But the other thing that I think is interesting about this is that they're not a main military contractor, I think. So they're from a company called Foundation, and they're a little bit outside of the main military contractors. So it's the first known deployment of a humanoid robot specifically designed for combat. And it's crossing a threshold that the industry has debated for years. So, in the actual same newsletter, there was also a story about Unitree training their $16,000 Unitree tennis robots. They're not doing the training. I think it's Latent Systems, and there's a video, and you just watch the robot playing tennis with a human. And that's a $16,000 robot. So the robots are doing all sorts of things. There's actually a third robot story about one being arrested in China for harassing an elderly woman. And that seemed to be like, there's so much more to that story than I can find, right? Where did you take them after you arrested them? What is the arrest situation? What was happening with the elderly woman? What is your definition of harassment?
I would on that. I want to just quickly put a pin in the topic of personhood. I don't know how deep we've gone into the AI personhood topic on shows, but man, oh man, I would love to dive into that someday soon.
Okay.
It's so weird, you know.
Yep.
Yeah, and there was actually news about that that I just saw in one of the newsletters. It's a ring. It doesn't exist yet, but you know how OpenAI has what's it called? World Glue. What the hell's it called? I have it on my
World
World app, but then it's World app, but what's the
It's the eyeball scanner.
the orb?
Yeah.
The orb is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, the orb.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I was like, what is it called? Anyway, that's for verifying humanness, right? And then I saw another one that was a ring, and the ring uses blockchain. Doesn't exist yet. It was like sort of theory. This company is raising funds to do it. And it's the idea of a handshake. And if I remember this right, for the humanness thing, the ring gets some sort of unique identifier to you that has to do with veins in your hand. Plus it's some sort of unique blockchain code. And then if I shake a hand with you and it detects a pulse because they wanted to make sure your hand couldn't just be chopped off, which was brought up in the comment. They're like, gross, but also, yeah, good feature. That like if you and I shook hands, that created a unique identifier that said, I can trust your content and you can trust my data. And that allows a bidirectional flow of sharing of data or something like that. And it's supposed to be like through this handshake. I only say that to say like that because that sounds very sci-fi and maybe it'll exist. But anyway, to your point about this idea of validating humanness is actually a really big topic that we probably don't talk about on this show as much. But there are a lot of companies who are betting on how they're going to help with this.
We're working with one. We're working with one called NotBot. They identify you like, for real via your passport, which is a little bit unfortunate because less than 50% of Americans have passports, but passport. So if you have access to a passport, you have access to verifying your identity. They don't have your data. But what it does is it generates a QR code that follows you around your world. So like we'll probably in the next 6 months for She Leads AI Zooms, you'll need to have a NotBot verification so that we know it's you because the Zoom bombing is getting out of control for women's groups. And then the other thing is it does is for your content. So like if my dad saw it's like Kyle, one of our friends made a video of me smoking. Well, no big deal, but like I don't smoke and I don't want to be seen smoking, and because it didn't have my QR code, my dad would know it's not me. So we're getting into it because it's time. We're already into it,
But how would the QR code? I'm just sorry. Quick follow-up question. How does the QR code help the situation now? Because it itself could be spoofed, could it not?
You know what? That's beyond my pay grade.
Oh,
I know that's the number. I know that's the problem that they're solving too. I don't know how it happens, but
yeah, just curious.
Maybe, yeah.
Yep.
Here we are.
Well, at some point, we all get back. We all get back to the place of we're using tech to prove that you're not tech, right? Like using AI to determine that this wasn't written by AI, and that's never been foolproof or successful. But there are definitely questions that we have to ask.
I think it's gonna trace into business. I mean, Carl, I can imagine your 0 to 60 at some point having deep enough discussions with a client that you guys have invested your time, your research into it, whatever, but not necessarily money changing hands, only to find out that that company doesn't exist and that you're being contacted. You know what I mean? Like, I could see a future where that's a problem, even in business, not even the humanness of a human, but the humanness of a business. You know,
Maybe. I think like because of who we work with, like specifically, and then how we do our business, like face to face, that's less of an issue for us right now. I don't know, but like in the non-tech traditional industries, I'm not even sure how that will work.
It's also tricky in the US because we have law that says corporations are people, right? Have the rights of people. So there's going to be a little bit of a challenge saying, well, we didn't mean people like that. We just meant people like this. We didn't think they were really people, but that sort of thing. And we know that Rent a Human, I don't even think that's really the name of it, but there was a thing with OpenClaw that business spun up. So if you need a human to complete your task, you can go to Rent a Human, whatever, and you can hire somebody to go and be the face or monkey fingers.
real quick,
They
Beth,
were-
before you move on, I just wanted to give it, because you kind of just pivoted into a little bit. So that was a nice little swerve or shout out for the conundrum episode that's coming up this Saturday, which is called the Smoking Gun Conundrum. And it is sort of in this vein of humanness, but what the conundrum is about is when you get to a place where it becomes impossible to trace back to human, who gets sued, who's responsible, how do you figure out a world in the future where it's so intricate from the AI standpoint that it's near possible or impossible to trace back to any single source? And because you mentioned about corporations, companies being people, right, in terms of how they can be sued, right? That's the whole, that comes up in the conversation. So anyway, if you guys are interested in that, that conversation about what do we do in the future where that's a very real reality, and that's that it talks about the lawsuits where the Waymo or whatever it was, maybe it wasn't Waymo, and there was an accident and they sued and blamed the driver sitting in the car who wasn't touching anything, making minimum wage, right? And so like that's where the fault went. But that's even in the future, this becomes a bigger and bigger problem where you can't really trace back. And it used a term, and I was blown away by this, but it was the moral crumple zone, I think is what it called. This was, by the way, that terminology, that came out of the two AI co-hosts doing that on Notebook LM. But it was the idea of, all things considered, the easiest solution is to find, the people who are not being protected, the low wage, the, unprotected communities. Those ultimately end up being the moral crumple zone for technology, because it's easier to go, well, it's that person's problem. But this gets infinitely more complex the deeper we go into the future. And so that's what this conundrum is about, is about that conversation. It's called the Smoking Gun Conundrum, which is like, where is the smoking gun, and can you even find it anymore? And if you can't, what do you do now? Because people want justice. People want to be able to say that person was the reason this happened to my family or whatever. We want to see the justice. And what do you do when you can't do that anymore? When it's impossible by a court of law to assign blame or whatever. It's very, very interesting to me. But anyway, that's what the conundrum is about. So it'll come out on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. If you want to check that out on our podcast platforms, it's already done. I've already listened to the episode. It's about 20 minutes long, but it's a good one. So go check that out.
Yay.
All right, I have a couple of things I can throw in.
Okay.
Turning back to Jensen Huang and the NVIDIA announcements, I mentioned yesterday that it was going to be about inference And yes, indeed, they have announced as part of the Vera Rubin stack, this massive supercomputer that is going to, I don't know, accelerate by 35x, the inference process, is including the Grok LPU as part of that system. So their acquisition slash acquihire of the Grok technology, which was uniquely designed to do large language model inference processing, is a major component of the acceleration that's promised by the Vera Rubin, which gets both acceleration and a big reduction in the energy cost of doing that inference. But importantly, we also mentioned that there was going to be something about robotics. And Jensen brought out the Disney Imagineering Olaf robot that we talked about months ago when Disney announced it, that has some really clever things mechanically inside it to make it walk just like the animation character Olaf in Frozen does. But then it was brought out by Jensen in his keynote speech, and I haven't watched it yet, so I haven't seen it exactly this way. But he noted that this was trained on the NVIDIA physics model in order to be able to, sort of self-direct its locomotion in a way that takes advantage of that. Also, it's using NVIDIA process in that. And I think that was a pretty interesting advance. And the other component of the robotics side of this was the announcement that NVIDIA and Uber are going to launch in 26 countries, or maybe it's 26 different vehicle model types. I think it's 26 countries. They're doing in cooperation with various car manufacturers. They're building, fully autonomous driving capabilities, and those are going to launch in the Uber fleet, if you will.
Right.
So, if anybody else has more information about that, I'd be interested in that, because I'm looking forward to the day when you don't really need a car anymore. You don't need to own your own vehicle, although I'll probably want to keep one just to remember what it's like to drive, because there will be fully autonomous vehicles that can be dispatched from a number of service providers, including a major one like Uber, that will come to your home, pick you up, and drive away without a driver.
Yeah, I was talking to I don't know, I forgot who I was talking about this. I was just saying that, like, by the time my daughter is ready to drive, we could be in a place that, like, you don't really, like, could be half, maybe a quarter of the vehicles on road are driverless, to the point where, like, maybe her daughter or her son could say, "Yeah, you guys are all savages when you're driving. What the heck was that? What was that all about?" Right? Because and the thing is, it only works, like, true. I think, like, from an accident perspective, if all the cars are driverless, I think that makes sense. I think where the errors would come from are people, like the judging, the distances, how they drive, and so on. But if
Or
the
impaired driving, like,
Sure.
the AI is never going to be impaired.
and, like, even, like, in terrible weather, right? Like, what? But you also, this is to me, this is a point of judgment, right? Because I don't think at this point, if you're driving in, let's say, in Calgary, sure, this is the good road to take, but anyone in Calgary knows this route is not good, because there's certain things that happen with the ice on certain occasions. Yes, you could probably put that into but it, like, all these edge cases that people know, that's very, very difficult to account for. And just, you've been driving on this over and over and over and over and over again. We know where this thing is, and it's different for each car, each place. And we're not talking about weather. It's like, oh, on certain times, you do not take the street because of this, and whatever reason. You would rather take this because it seems slower, but it's actually better. And I know a lot of people are like, well, eventually you'll learn that. It's like, yeah, I don't know how you'll download all that. You'll need to be driving that. And even today, the Waymos and the robotaxis are coming. They won't all those are being tested in like very okay weather places. I'm like,
Right.
you test it out in Edmonton, you test it out in Yellowknife, you test it out in like places where like, hey, the challenges of real weather challenges. I don't know how you'll be able to. That's a completely different way to drive. I'm like, how is the Wayman going to come up? Because we live on a hill to the point where no kids like to go trick or treating because you have to climb the hill. That's
I've been there. I've seen that. I've walked down.
Yes, Andy, you know exactly, right? And then not only that, you have to climb to our house to get to it, right? So we're always like any porch pirates. I'm like, yeah, you have to climb all the way up. Like, do that? No, it's not gonna happen.
Just try it in the ice. Well, I personally believe that that will be solved over time just through experience by the vehicles. If they find that they can't make it through, a certain icy patch at a certain time, that they'll start to avoid that as the simplest response. But then, over time they might learn that, oh, if you do X, Y, and Z, you can still make passage. Um, anyway, the future of autonomous vehicles is pretty bright, especially in the world of global warming, when Calgary is going to be kind of like a beach town, I think, eventually. So we don't have to worry about that.
Don't you need ocean to have
We're a
some
beach
sort
town?
of water?
That means BC doesn't exist. I mean, that's right. The West Coast. We're the West Coast.
Yeah, that the rest of the West Coast is going to fall off, and Calgary is going to be on the beach. So anyway, Jensen Huang said autonomous vehicles are the first multi-trillion-dollar robotics industry. And I think that's right. I mean, the likelihood that people are going to afford humanoid robots in their homes and overwhelm the scale of investment that'll happen through autonomous vehicles that replace substantially the internal combustion engine fleets that exist today. I just in the long term here, I'm not talking about in the rest of my lifetime even necessarily, but in the long term, that's really where the multi-trillion-dollar investments will be, is moving people around using autonomous vehicles. I personally want an autonomous EVTOL vehicle, right? So instead of having to go along the roads, which is the most energy efficient way, I want to be able to fly up in the sky and do it that way.
Nice. So, but there is one thing about the autonomous vehicle issue, is that it's the only place that I see where you're really deploying robotic technology in a way that's a big interface with human with no protection. Like, you're not in control of what the human does to the technology, right? The robot taxi goes somewhere and sometimes it doesn't come back, right? Like, there's that kind of thing. The only other thing that I can see that's kind of like that is like the drone delivery, or the we've seen them videos of them in LA, like a little rolling delivery kind of thing with a flag. But at least in that context, you've you've asked for something. It's a little bit more delivery like. It doesn't seem like it's I guess it is taking people's jobs, but it's a different kind of thing. And I don't know how often those get destroyed either. I find it interesting because I think it'll be a little bit more of a bumpy adoption.
We have the little robots all over Corvallis because the university, and they are so polite and so conservative. I'm gonna guess they don't get scrunkled very often. Yeah. But they're only carrying sandwiches, so, like, if anything happens, it's really not a big deal, whereas with Waymo, the stakes are obviously life and death, so I don't know, let's test it on a lot more sandwiches.
Sometimes not getting your sandwich in is very important.
Don't have to tell me.
All right. Carl, you want to talk about business and agentic stuff. Is that something we want to
Yeah, like if we have some time to, I think maybe like we may have to save that because
'Kay.
could be a bigger conversation. What maybe we can look at, and it, I take it that we have, like, and mentioned that we haven't talked about it, is what Jensen was talking about yesterday in terms of NemoClaw, and what he announced yesterday. Well, so I want to play kind of like a little bit of a video on what they announced yesterday. Let's see. Yes.
I will see whether this gets us demonetized or not. We have had problems lately where we share a video file and that
Huh.
but this everybody's sharing this. Go for it.
Every company in the world today needs to have an OpenClaw strategy, an agentic system strategy. This is the new computer. Now, this is just the exciting part. This is enterprise IT before OpenClaw. That is the old IT industry. Software companies creating tools, saving files, and of course, GSI's consultants that help companies figure out how to use these tools and integrate these tools. Post OpenClaw, post agentic, this is what it's going to look like. This is the extraordinary part. Every single IT company, every SaaS company will become a gas company. No question about it. Every single SaaS company will become a gas company, an agentic as a service company. And what's amazing is this: OpenClaw gave the industry exactly what it needed at exactly the time. Just as Linux gave the industry exactly what it needed at exactly the time, just as Kubernetes showed up at exactly the right time, just as HTML showed up. It made it possible for the entire industry to grab onto this open source stack and go do something with it. There's just one catch. Agentic systems in the corporate network can have access to sensitive information, it can execute code, and it can communicate externally. Just say that out loud, okay? Think about it. Access sensitive information, execute code, communicate externally. Obviously, this can't possibly be allowed. And so what we did was we worked with Peter. We took some of the world's best security and computing experts, and we worked with Peter to make OpenClaw enterprise secure and enterprise private capable. And we call that NemoClaw, which is a reference for OpenClaw, and it has all these agentic AI toolkits. And the first part of it is technology we call OpenShell that has now been integrated into OpenClaw. Now it's enterprise ready. This stack, with a reference stack we call NemoClaw, you could download it, play with it, and you could connect to it the policy engine of all of the SaaS companies in the world. And your policy engines are super important, super valuable. So the policy engines could be connected. NemoClaw or OpenClaw with OpenShell would be able to execute that policy engine. It has a network guardrail. It has a privacy router. And as a result, we could protect and keep the claws from executing inside our company and do it safely.
Okay. I think I'm not sure. Like, I don't know who tested it, who didn't. I don't know. So that's a really neat. That's obviously one of the biggest barriers to deploying it anything remotely. Any kind of claw is that specific issue, right? Even GenSpark Claw, the new Manus, what was announced this morning, like, no business would be in the right mind unless you're like a startup and really gung-ho about it. And I've seen a couple would even remotely do that. And as you scale, especially, connected to a whole bunch of other clients, it's a non-starter. So that looks like a very promising option. Yeah.
And I do think that that's the piece that that people are trying to solve. The stories that we see are much more solopreneur, independent, bought 5 Mac studios, and they're all on top of each other, daisy chaining and doing all the things. And I will make all the software in the world forever for free for myself.
Yes.
But normal businesses are much more cautious than that.
So let me ask about NemoClaw. And I'm speculating here. It seems like NemoClaw is just a set of libraries that get installed around OpenClaw to sort of manage the privacy and security issues within an enterprise. So this is a tool for enterprises specifically. You're not going to find, at the moment anyway, a similar kind of thing for a personal AI agent that is a claw that's running on your local hardware and also has all of those things built into it as a package. Or you won't use NemoClaw for that. You'll use something else that somebody else will write that will, provide some structure and security around your own personally identifiable information and your sensitive information that you don't want to have exposed anywhere on the web. Does that make sense? I mean,
yeah, because you tried today, and I actually had Grok be like, "Hey, can you pull a whole bunch of things like what's about, right? Like open source stack, and then some keyline. I guess there's some benefits to it. So you have control network access, whitelist only, file systems mostly read, inference flexibility, runs on anything, cloud on prem, not bad. Policy enforcement, auditability." So it uses a lightweight CLI and a version immutable Python blueprint, creates a controlled sandbox when she was talking about OpenShell. So file system isolation, network policy, and an inference routing. Intercepts requests, sends to local Nematron or cloud providers. You can switch models at runtime. Interesting how it does that. I've got to see more on what this looks like. And I think even I'm like, you got to run this through really hardcore IT professionals to see okay, if you were doing this, why would you use this? Would you use this? And my question is it only for OpenClaw type of environments, or is it for other? The reason why I asked that question, I've been asked quite a lot by a lot of IT professionals, hey, with things like Codex and Claude Code, are there any systems that could intercept or control or put even more guardrails on something like it? Because if you deploy a Codex or a Claude Code at the, as long as that person puts it at the root level, they can do anything they want with the local files. So is this something that could help with that internal? There's so yeah, I think this is probably from a cybersecurity perspective. How do you guard against this? Do you have cybersecurity agents that prevent your agent from doing this, from doing specific things? I'm not sure how that would work necessarily. So yeah, it's kind of it's been percolating around. I think it'll be more and more as more companies are thinking of deploying this company wide, and really understanding what it can do, right? Because even I don't know about you, but when I'm looking at Andy, when you have computer, Plexi computer on, or even I'm testing out Paperclip, right? I'm having a hard time thinking outside of technical building applications and the regular, oh, I wanted to go research something for me. I want it to be my morning, gives me my morning information, what exactly it will do for me. And that's a hard thing to, unless you have to really write your day out. It's here are the tasks that I do. Can something actually do this for me?
Yeah, I think you're kind of echoing what Anne said earlier today, which is it's we're bringing a hammer
Yeah.
to a knife fight or something. I forget what the analogy was, but it's not clear to the typical user just what use cases really accelerate your productivity and make for a really useful AI autonomous agent, co-intelligence working side by side with you. What are you going to do with that? And we're just experimenting with that, all of us, as we start to play with these tools.
The joke is, okay, so you're gonna have whatever you use, whatever claw you use to answer your WhatsApp. Like, so I saw the GenSpark video this morning about like, oh, we got employees loving GenSpark Claw. I'm like, okay. So I watched the video. I'm like, all that person did was have GenSpark Claw respond to their family WhatsApp because she doesn't have time to. And I was like, that's not very good use. I'm not sure that's. And then some of the use cases, I'm like, yeah, I guess so. And they're all excited. I'm like, I wouldn't be excited about that. Like,
Yeah.
there was, okay, so I'm going to say a name. It'll probably trigger all of you.
Don't say it.
There was a video that Andrew Tate put out because he mentioned OpenClaw. And obviously super offensive to a lot of people, but there was one piece there and I was like, he's making a good point. His point was like, are you telling me you're going to have your agent respond in WhatsApp so you don't have to? And that's what I was like. And that led me to, hold on a second. Why would I let an agent respond to my family for me? Like, it's kind of putting a middleman or middle person in front of a task that, why would you need a middle thing to do? Like, oh, I'm going to tell my claw to respond to my WhatsApp, right? And it's like,
Listen, I have an actual use case, not with my family. Actually, let me say a friend of mine had a use case where by putting a middle agent in between them and the person they were really struggling with, were able to maintain the relationship enough to function toward the shared goal by having a mediator. This reminds me very much of when I got a divorce in Oregon, where it's very, very hippy dippy, and you have to have the middle person in the beginning. It's like that. Everybody talks to the middle person. They don't talk to each other. And that middle person is the agent. I also learned on that note about a kind of an organizational structure for your agents where none of them talk to each other. And it's like, it's not a hierarchy and it's not a matriarchy. It's a heteroarchy. Everybody talks only to one person and then they talk like this. So I feel like agents and the way that we structure them can actually, in many cases, support our relationships. And like, if I was in a relationship with a family member, like I have one that I think maybe I could unblock if I could just have the agent talk to them. Currently they're blocked.
I like that point. One pushback on that.
Yes, hear it. Let me hear it.
The pushback is less about talking to, family members you don't like.
Yeah.
We all know that there is a loneliness epidemic that's happening all over.
Andrew Tate knows. Yeah.
And we also know, like, people are having a harder time being able to communicate to real people, right? Wouldn't this exacerbate the entire situation? Because now you're like, okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna tell my OpenClaw to respond to any type of conflict I'm having. I'm gonna let my agent do it instead of me learning how to do it. Because if I can't learn how to do it and my agent is doing it for me, if I get into situations where I have to respond in real conflict with people, I don't know how to de-escalate. I don't know how to find common ground. I can't rely on my agent to be that middle agent all the time, which I'm thinking that could be, right, a danger for that aspect of it.
I think there's a lot of evidence that for different people in the world, it'd be very helpful for them to be able to distance themselves from some of their coworkers. For example, if you're a Black woman in corporate America and you show up and you're dealing with microaggressions every single day with your boss, but you need your job. I think that's an example of put something in the middle so that you can tolerate this, so that you can keep your job, so you can stand it.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I could
well,
see it both ways.
the thing is, AIs don't have an amygdala,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And we
The
do.
amygdala is the part of the brain that processes fear, anxiety, and aggression. And
Exactly.
you get triggered very easily, even if it wasn't intended by the person on the other side.
Bingo.
And so having an intermediary like an AI to kind of temper the reactions that are generated by an amygdala in a human can be useful. I can see that. Now, I wanted to maybe let's close out on this little bit of information about the ways that AI is actually messing up the abilities of humans to operate effectively. Because one of the underlying points here in this last moments of discussion is, hey, there's certain things that we're going to delegate to AI that may prevent us from learning how to do them ourselves. This is Carl's point. Okay, so at Ohio State University, there's a literature professor named Michael Clune, and he's also a novelist. And he teaches in the liberal arts, division of Ohio State. And he says now, this is a reporting to The Guardian, who interviewed him. He said, my students are now incapable of reading and analyzing, synthesizing data, and all kinds of other skills. And he said, at the same time as that's happening, the school is mounting an effort to produce AI fluency, not influency. That's an interesting new term I just coined, which is what creators should have. They have to develop influency skills.
Influency.
But anyway, everyone at Ohio State University has to have fluency skills in AI. And he says, this is across every major. And he was critical of that. He said, no one knows what that means. He said, because in my case, as a literature professor, these tools actually mitigate against the educational goals I have for my students. And he's observing this in students now because they're using AI to do analysis of literature that just prevents their own minds from developing that kind of evaluative and critical thinking.
Right. And that's a choice up front, right? Like how you use AI does affect the effects that AI has on you. So on that note, we're going to wrap up. Thanks everybody for hanging with us for this hour. We are the Daily AI Show. It is Tuesday. We will be back tomorrow and the rest of the week with all new shows. So go out and do something interesting with AI today. See y'all.
Bye, everybody.